name's Johnny and welcome to Craterhoof Math, the only show that shows you the math behind your favorite card interactions. And today, all about Sudo card advantage. We're going to talk about Blood Moon and my favorite rule of law. Blood Moon's a classic all-star that's played in every format that it's legal in, from Vintage to Commander. And rule of law, not even close, but it's, I love this card so much. And I'll get to you why later. But both these cards can actually completely alter the course of a game and completely change it unless they have an answer for them, which is why we're gonna have to go over them. And the math of this, again, I know it's gonna be crazy that I'm bringing such a complicated thing as math into this whole thing here, and trying to explain complex gameplay in a math equation. It's gonna blow so many of your minds, but I'm gonna need you to stick with me on this, and trust me, math is here to make your life easier. Now let's get into Blood Moon. So Blood Moon, in this example, we're gonna be talking about probability. Now, Blood Moon reads that when, I really wanna follow along here, but I can't see the card, as I'm sure you all know. I can't actually physically see it, but I wanna read it. All non-basic lands are mountains. Hold on, let me just... I really hope that lined up. I'll feel so good if I got that to line up. Now, since all non-basic lands are mountains, that means if your mana base is stretched thin with too many non-basics, such as Temple Garden or a Hallowed Fountain, filter lands like Fetid Heath, or you have a fetch land like Arid Mesa, these are all just basic mountains. They can only tap from red. They can't be activated to search your library. They can't do anything besides tap from red mana, which can just completely ruin your game plan and lock you out of the game, making you unable to cast cards unless you have alternative mana sources like Llanowar War Elves, maybe Noble Hierarch, perhaps Lotus Petal, maybe. So unless you have something like these examples, you're permanently out of the game. And to really illustrate this, we're gonna do a quick math problem in a second. The way that this produces pseudo card advantage is by making it impossible for you to cast the cards in your hand, thus making it as though they're not even there. If you can't find an alternative way of casting them, or you can't find a way of cheating them into play, or find some way of utilizing these cards without paying for their just regular mana cost, you can't play them. They might as well just not be there, and all the cards in your deck that may have required colors of mana besides red that you're going to draw into might as well not exist either. They're not going to have any effect on the game. It's like you're just skipping your draw step, which is why Blood Moon can be so awful. Your opponent's playing an Abzan deck, and they're splashing, they're mostly a green deck, but they're splashing for Liliana the Veil with, let's say, Fetid Heath and Godless Shrine. These are their only black sources, non-basics. These are the only ones. So when Blood Moon enters play, the layer will take effect upon its entering the battlefield. It won't be a trigger or anything, it's just the second that it's in play, this happens, there's no response time, there's no nothing. It's either on the stack and you can deal with it, or it enters the battlefield and then there it is. They have two forests in play, a Temple Garden and a Fetid Heath. Blood Moon enters the battlefield and the two forests remain unchanged, but the two non-basics, they become mountains again. And considering that Fetid Heath and the only black sources that they have are Godless Shrine and Fetid Heath are going to be mountains when they're on the battlefield. So they enter as mountains, they stay as mountains until Blood Moon goes away. Liliana the Veil is uncastable in its current state. It needs another way to get it into play, whether that's forcibly just putting a permanent on the battlefield using another card's ability, or whatever they may choose, but they can't do it through the normal board state. So let's also say that, let's take it a step further and talk about the cards inside their deck. Since Liliana, if they draw it, is a dead card since they can't cast it in this state, they'll need a removal spell for Blood Moon or something to do to it. So let's say there's three Liliana Veils in their library. And let's say that there's 48 cards in their library. So 3 out of 48, that's 1 in 16. That's a 6.25% chance to draw a dead card that's completely useless. So 1 in 16 of the cards in their library, they have a 6.25% chance of drawing a dead card, basically missing their draw step. And this is even further by keeping in mind some of the other basics are also locked out. So this could be a lot more damaging. This is just one part of their deck that's being locked down. And remember the complex math that I mentioned earlier? How it's super difficult? Yeah, this is it. Fractions converted into percentages. Man, am I torturing you guys. Oh boy. So let's get into rule of law. The reason why rule of law is considered pseudo card advantage, in my eyes at least, is because there are a lot of decks that can very easily disrupt, and a lot of decks that would like to cast multiple spells in a turn and sequence their spells in a certain order. Now, one great example, one very obvious example, Storm, surprise. I don't know if anybody could think of that one off the top of their head, but this creates such a great amount of pseudo card advantage against Storm, because their main win condition, the whole point of the deck, the whole thing that they're built around to maximize the power of, is basically turned off. They can cast it, and that's it all by itself. There's no way for them to actually maximize it to its fullest potential and just one-shot you with it very early in the game. And that is an example of pseudo card advantage, when you turn off one card in their deck that they're entirely built around, just sort of ruining their chances of winning the game, making everything else pointless, and they're basically like they're flailing their arms at you. Another good example is Living End in Modern. Keep in mind, this affects Cascade too. Cascade says you have to cast the card. So Bloodbraid Elf gets turned off. Remember, Living End, there's always turn 7. It also can disrupt a lot of rebound decks that use rebound, because at the beginning of your upkeep you cast that spell from exile again, or you could cast a suspend card, and that could be your whole turn. You may have to wait till you'll have to wait till my turn to try to play an instant or something with flash, which you may not have in your hand. And even if you do, it might not be very impactful or further your board state, which may be necessary depending on the board state and where the game stands, what your matchup is. And because of the way that rule of law is worded, you do have to, each player can only cast one spell per turn. So that means each rotation, if you're playing a lot of instants or flash creatures, you can take advantage of this, play something on your turn, play something on your opponent's turn, while your opponent may not be able to maximize this. So you can play something on your turn, hold up a counter spell for their turn, and force them to run one card after the other into each one of your counter spells or each one of your Path to Exiles, or you can choose to force them to discard, then on their turn play a flash creature. Like Teferi, another good card that works really well with rule of law actually, because it makes it so that they can't cast spells that aren't at sorcery speed. So that basically limits them to only casting spells during their turn. That's it. So counter spells are pretty much turned off for them for the most part. And them running one card after the other into each of your removal spells, just getting you a 1-for-1 at a better rate than normally. They can't actually overwhelm you, they can't force a lot of things through and force you to tap so much of your mana and then try to just run out a quick creature, follow just to get something to stick. They actually have to wait a full turn for you to untap again, have more mana, get another chance to draw another card, and them having to run one card out per turn that includes your turn and their turn you are able to individually pick off one of their cards one at a time with solid one-for-ones, like either a cryptic command, and really get full value, know what's going to happen a little bit better, like what's the worst that can happen with one spell per turn, just one at a time. And as long as you're safeguarded against this and really trying to maintain this, you can actually force a lot of interesting interactions out of your opponent, a lot of desperation moves, a lot of different things. And there's fewer ways to hold backup removal for a win condition or a finisher card that you're trying to protect from the control deck and trying to protect from removal. You have to run that out and hope that they don't have removal, because there may not be a way for you to properly respond. And if you want better examples of these kind of pseudo card advantage and these kind of games, you should try watching the Birmingham Grand Prix in 2018 Legacy Finals. It was a Saltai Delver red build versus mono red prison. It was a fantastic game. I highly recommend watching it. It was really good. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the game goes pretty much exactly as you would expect it to go. And I highly recommend that you really watch the entire thing, really try to absorb its content. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Next week we're going to be talking about combo. Don't forget to like for more. My name is Johnny. See you later.